So we've talked about packs, now we're going to talk about what goes in a pack. So we're going to start out first, and I'm going to have my beautiful assistant Dale start off by reading me the list of the 10 Scout Essentials. One of those is a pocket knife.
Pocket knife. First aid kit.
Which is a pocket knife I'm going to carry on my person. And we've got a first aid kit here. So set these aside. Right here it is. Here's the first aid kit. This you're going to want, I've got packs over there, you'll probably want to put this up in the brain of the pack so it's easily accessible. This is a Scout's personal first aid kit. What else we got there?
Extra clothing.
Extra clothing. So just for exemplar reasons here, we've got Wes's socks and we've got Dale's cap. A couple of things that you might want to have, weather dependent of course. If it's summertime, you're still going to want extra socks no matter the weather. But also, if it's cooler or has potential to be cooler, you may want an extra jacket. But whatever you need, weather dependent.
Rain gear.
Rain gear we have.
Right here.
All right. We got. No, that's not it. Okay, yeah, we got a poncho here. This is a little foil one that you can use for putting over yourself when it rains. So that's also going to be someplace easily accessible if the weather does change. You don't want that in the bottom of your pack.
Water bottle.
Water bottle. I'd recommend 2. Depends on the size of your Cub Scouts. Probably you don't want them to carry 2 of them because they do get heavy. But on most trek situations, you're going to want Scouts to have at least 2 of these.
Flashlight.
Flashlight. We've got a headlamp here, and with extra batteries. So that's going to go someplace in your pack, hopefully up in the brain where it's easily accessible. A couple extra batteries for it. And be mindful of what you get for a flashlight or a headlamp. I do have a couple of them that go easily on and off. So if it goes on your pack and it's dead at night, that's not helpful. If it is, then try and put it someplace wrapped up in something else so the switch doesn't get pushed.
Trail food.
Trail food, for example, we've got some dehydrated stuff here. Depends on what you're doing. It could be something like a couple of snack bars, a nice bag of granola. You know, it could be a sandwich for the day, whatever it is. But again, it should be someplace accessible.
Matches. Fire starters.
And for matches and fire starters, we've got here in a Ziploc bag, we've got waterproof matches, some dryer lint, some fat wood here to get stuff going. So if we need to start a fire in an emergency or cook lunch, whatever we're doing, we've got that accessible. Again, I put this in the brain of my pack so it's like something I can find.
Sun protection and bug spray.
Okay, we don't have sun protection here, but we've got bug spray. And again, sun protection is something you may want year round. You could get a sunburn in the wintertime. Bug spray, obviously, not so necessary in the winter, but the rest of the time of year, it's good to have. Keep it someplace accessible again.
Map and compass.
Map and compass we've got here, just a small compass here. And so this is a gigantic map that folds out about 4 by 4. Not probably the best one to carry for a day trip. If you're doing day trips or short trips, you can get a lot of maps online where you can print out the map of the trail that you're doing that day, and everybody can have a copy. Then everybody can play with their compass and orient it, and you can make it a teaching thing, as well as having them actually know where they are, hopefully. And I would put that into a Ziploc bag to keep it dry.
Backpack with rain cover.
All right, we've got, we're out of the personal here, I guess, right?
Yeah.
All right, so a good sized heavy trash bag would be good for a rain cover, or you can get a pack. I think this is the one. This is Dale's pack here. This one in the bottom of the pack has a rain cover that pulls out, and you can pull up and throw it over the entire pack. And Wes kind of covered that earlier, but it just goes on like so. It weighs very little. This is attached to the pack. You can't leave it home, hopefully. So now your pack is going to stay dry.
Sleeping gear.
So sleeping gear, we have here a ground cloth or a sleeping pad, both for insulation purposes and to keep those nasty sharp rocks out of your back. And depending on the pack we've got here, on the frame pack, you're likely going to want to attach it to your sleeping bag. On this particular pack, this internal frame pack, it'll go right into these straps and you can cinch it down tight so it doesn't go anywhere. So something I wouldn't worry about getting wet. I think this one is a closed cell foam one. There's also inflatable ones. Those are a little less reliable than the closed cell foams because you can pump a hole in them. Generally they come with a patch kit, usually not an issue. They're also heavier. And then Then here's a sleeping bag and a compression sack. I don't know that this one is a waterproof one. I would, at the very least, put the sleeping bag inside a garbage bag in this before I strap it on the outside of the pack. In case it does rain, that pack cover may not cover it well. You don't want it to get wet. It's not going to insulate and keep you warm enough if it's wet.
Well, one thing about sleeping bags, they come with different fills in them for different warmth. That particular sleeping bag has a man-made filler in it. If it does get wet, you will still sleep warm. If that was a down bag and it got wet, you're going to sleep cold. Even though down's a better insulator, but when it's wet, it's worthless.
Although there is new down that's treated to be water resistant and it does work well, but those are much more expensive than a bag like this.
Yeah, most down bags start at $200 and go up.
Exactly.
Not something you want to buy for a kid to get started in camping. Ground cloth.
So we've got a ground cloth spread out. I'll use one of these inside my tent. Sometimes silver side up to get a little reflection of the heat back. Doesn't do a great deal, but it's better than having the dampness come through. One like this is nice. You can use the Mylar blankets, although they have a tendency to rip much more easily than these. You can also use these as a quick shelter. These have grommets in the corners and the sides, and you can hang it up over a line and use it for a quick shelter in case it rains. You can also wrap something in it. It's a good first aid item to have as well.
Eating gear. Eating gear.
Eating gear. So here's a basic Scout mess kit. This one's got a fry pan and a cup and a pot in it. Pretty standard. It's served its place through the years. You can get as many different varieties of these things as you want. Get fancy, get lightweight. This one is a pull-up cup, collapsible cup for drinking water or tea or coffee or whatever you want. And a couple of utensils. Probably, there's other utensils I want for this. I probably want something with spatula, but just an example anyways.
Personal gear for cleaning.
So the personal gear, we don't have a whole lot of examples of that. Okay. Toothbrush, toothpaste here. We've got toilet paper. A lot of times I'll bring wet wipes these days, depending on how light or heavy you want to go. Here's a small towel that absorbs a lot of water. You can hang it off the back of your pack when you're hiking to let it dry out, or hang it off a clothesline at night. And it does wring out pretty well. Again, small, but it does the job.
Okay, that's it for personal gear. Group gear.
So for the group gear, we've got rope. And again, now this is group gear, so this should be distributed among your group. Not everybody has to have a length of rope. So this can be used for the rain fly for this, or any number of other things.
Water purification.
Water purification, probably good for maybe four to six scouts. If you've got a nice filter like this, you can also use iodine tablets and a number of other things. You can boil water too, although it's you spend a lot of time boiling water and letting it get cool enough to drink and so forth. These are beautiful. Again, not everybody has to have them. So again, with your toilet paper, actually in the Scout book, it's interesting, it mentions toilet paper as group gear. I would make sure every single individual has their own supply of toilet paper, but as group gear, you want to trowel. Because we're going to leave no trace. We're not going to make a mess on the forest floor and leave it with toilet paper. We're going to dig a hole. Most of these have a measuring system on them, so you can dig 4 to 6 inches down, dig your hole, dump it in your hole, cover it back over, and it's going to break down. We're not leaving stuff for other people to walk in or see. It's unsightly, it's unsanitary, and it can affect water supplies and so that sort of thing nearby.
Cleanup gear.
Cleanup gear. We've got Dale's well-used sponge here, a scrubbing pad with some soap in it. So all good to go there. That's going to be group gear as well. Stove. So again, with the group gear, stove, we've got, this is a white gas stove that I believe is Dale's. So MSR fuel bottle here. There's a pump that goes in this. Make sure that you check these before campouts to make sure all the seals are good. Although this particular stove, if you have a maintenance kit, it can be field maintained. But again, better to make sure it's working ahead of time. And this particular stove is great. The fuel bottle goes back here. It's got two controls. One of them is on this. This is the on-off for the fuel when it's in the bottle. This one adjusts your flame up and down, so you can simmer with this, as opposed to most of these white gas stoves that boil the heck out of water, and that's about it. This one's a much more versatile piece of equipment. But again, probably good for anywhere from 2 to 4 scouts as group equipment, depending on what your cooking situation is going to be.
Medical information.
One of the things that we talked about bringing would be medical information. I know that most scouters are going to leave medical forms in the car. If we have anybody with specific issues, diabetic perhaps, or have bee sting allergy, you want to make sure that they've got their equipment with them and probably some kind of gear in case you need to get a hold of a ranger as opposed to going back to the car. It's going to be good to have that with you, as especially in those specific cases. I would say that if somebody doesn't have any known problems and you want to leave the medical forms in the car, that's probably acceptable because those do get bulky and heavy. But if you've got specific issues, good idea to have this with you. So normally I would have a selection of clothing here for myself too on an overnight hike. I would put all of that into clear Ziploc bags. And even with a rain cover on the pack, I want to make sure that my clothing stays dry. The nice thing about clear Ziplocs is you can look at it and see what's there. I do have a number of dry bags, silicone cloth covered ones from, I think from Walmart, various other places that come in different colors, but it's just easier to have the plastic ones and you can look at those and see what's there as opposed to, let's see, did I put my jacket in that orange one or my socks in the yellow one? And trying to figure that out as you go. Anything else we need to cover? Tents as well, so that again will be group gear in a backpack situation. If you've got one scout or an adult that's 6 feet tall and 200 pounds and sturdy as a bull, maybe they can carry the tent. Otherwise, you probably want to break up sections of the tent, and depending on who's sleeping in it. So somebody may carry the body of the tent, somebody else may carry the poles and the stakes. If it's a 2-man tent, if it's a 3-man tent, depending on what your situation is, you can share that gear as well. Don't take a little scout and give them the tent or the massive cook kit. Just kind of look at who you've got in a group and what kind of burden they can bear reasonably.
Now, all this information comes right out of your scout book. It's listed in there. You also can find a list in the field guide for scouting. One other thing, when you're out looking for a pack or whatnot, don't go buying the 11-year-old Scout a $400 Dana pack. You can buy them a starter pack for probably $100 or less, or you can get one at a garage sale for $10. That's durable. Just check it out, make sure there's no rips, tears, or anything in it that's going to create a problem on the hike. Also, if you're going, particularly for yourself, to buy a good pack, I would go to a reputable store that lets you try the pack on with weight in it to see how it carries, to make sure the suspension system on the pack adjusts to you. When I was looking for a pack, I found a Mountain Smith pack. Fit me perfect. It was great. Didn't have the money to buy it. I went back a year later to get it. Mountain Smith changed their suspension and it was no good. So I ended up with a Jack Wolfskin that I happened to find on sale at half price at a store that fit me perfect, and that's worked for me for pretty close to 25 years now. Pack's probably got well over 1,000 miles on it, and it's still in good condition. But again, if you go to Johnson's Camping World or EMS, they generally want you to try the packs on. They'll put 30, 40 pounds in the back of it to make sure the suspension on the thing fits you properly and whatnot. It's much more comfortable and easier to carry a pack that fits you properly than something that's cutting into you or pulling on your shoulders or whatnot. Nothing worse than being uncomfortable while you're trying to hike.
Another thing to consider, particularly now that we have female scouts and male scouts, is some packs are geared towards females and some are geared towards males, and it's going to make more of a difference. Probably as they become older, their body shapes change. But if you go to someplace like EMS, generally they're going to have in stock female-oriented packs that you can try on and make sure that they fit properly. I did go with my daughter one time for exactly that reason, and they didn't have any. They had the men's packs and no female packs. We wound up ordering one from someplace else, tried it on, adjusted it a little bit, and it worked out very well for her. Some of these packs are very adjustable, so something like this can grow with the Scout. This might be a little bit big for a Scout who's, yay high. However, you also want to bear in mind the way he's loaded a little bit. But if you see the holes on these, you can move the straps. So you can, for a smaller Scout, you can put the straps on here, for a bigger one up here. You can also adjust the waist belt a little bit. So there's some versatility to that. These type of packs, when I was a kid, we used to see what we could hang off the outside. Not a good plan. That's a good way for a lot of gear to get lost. Carabiners, notwithstanding, Scouts are going to lose stuff that's on the outside of their pack. These don't have as much opportunity to hang things off the outside. Oh, there are loops here and there. Plus, you don't want to necessarily go through the woods clinging and clanging the way you go. Because it's, again, we want to keep quiet when we're on the trails and enjoy nature. But again, these packs are very adjustable as well. And you can move the straps, you can adjust these straps up top for the shoulder straps. You can make some adjustments with the waist straps. So there's a lot of versatility there. Packing a pack isn't so essential with a frame pack because everything's away from your back, but you do want to balance the weight out. Not put all the way to the bottom, not put all the way to the top. With an internal frame pack, you want to be a little bit more careful about putting stuff that's soft against your back, especially if you're using like a day pack that's just a knapsack with no frame. And you want to make sure the soft stuff is against your back, not say the aluminum hook. So things to consider. And again, the Scout book's got a fair amount of information in it. Up and beyond that, there's the Scout Field Book, which is a good source of information as well. And you can get about 1 billion different backpack books that will tell you all kinds of different stuff, way up and above and beyond what we're trying to discuss here. So there's a lot of options for information, and there's YouTube.
Another thing, when you're packing your packs, we're talking about additional clothing and clothing that you're wearing. One thing you don't want to wear, even in the middle of summer, you don't want to have jeans on. You get out and it starts to rain, your jeans are going to get wet. The next thing you know, you got a cold wind and you're going to become hypothermic. Same rules apply in the summer as for winter. No cotton. Stay away from your cotton. Stay with your polyesters and your fleeces and whatnot. Be careful buying fleece. Sometimes in the stores they'll say you got a fleece sweatshirt. It's 100% cotton. It's not real fleece. Read the labels. Another thing, between the frame pack and the internal frame pack, the external frame pack is a little more clumsy on the back and whatnot. The internal frame pack seems to hug you and ride with you a little bit better in close situations where you're trying to get through and under things. The internal frame pack seems to work a little bit better for you. That's it.
One other thing. Yeah. So one of the things that we came across in some of the gear we had here, Wes likes to smell nice when he camps. So he had this pumpkin cupcake hand sanitizer. So this is one of those items that hand sanitizer we strongly recommend bringing for the Scouts. Each should have their own personal size. But this particular one I'd leave home because, again, we leave no trace. We don't want to attract animals. And Wes may like to smell like pumpkin cupcakes, but when the chipmunks and the bears come for him later, there's going to be a lot of shrieking and screaming. So try and leave the food smell type products home, but hand sanitizer is a good plan.
They want to put this